All right, speaking on the topic of feasts, before we transition a little further, again, this is a crash course. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much, but when we're talking about the feast days and everything of that nature, it has days in there, of course. It's called feast days. But there are also aspects of it where it changes from month to month. Well, we talked a bit earlier about the month and how that process goes. You can't really determine the month. Well, you can't determine the month without the moon's involvement, right? So I gave you the verse to check out, Ecclesiasticus chapter 43, verses 6 to 8. I mean, if you don't take lost books, that's on you, I understand. But there's other scriptures as well that's very helpful in showing the importance of the moon. I also gave you Genesis chapter 1, but these are lost books I believe to be true and helpful in understanding the luminaries. You need to study all these scriptures. I believe them to be scripture. That's another discussion for another day. But Ecclesiasticus chapter 43, verses 6 through 10. All right, I'm going to read it real quickly in the KJVAAE. All right. This is the King James Version, the American Apocrypha Edition. That's what I think the abbreviation is short for. But I'm going to start at verse 6. It says, "He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and the sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of the feast," right? "A light that decreases in her perfection." Okay, so during that feast time, which I'm going to also talk about, which is really shown in Psalms, right there, boom, Psalms 81:3. But I'm gonna keep reading. It says, "From the moon is a sign of feast, a light that decreases in her perfection. The month is called after her name." Okay, the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, right? "Being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heavens." So being an instrument, right? Remember I told you it's a tool. So this is a witness, this is a sign, right? Shining in the firmament of the heavens, right? Or some of the sky, right? So with this being said, we know that the moon has to be also used to understand these feast days, right? And then also when you're counting like that on a lunar solar calendar or Enochian calendar, you get the 8th, the 15th, and all these different days that come alongside also the 7th-day Shabbat, right? And you also have the new moon day, which is also Feast of Trumpets for the first day of the 7th biblical month, right? This all interconnects when you understand the calendar. A lot of people who's on Saturday Shabbats, they can't understand the feast days aside from the moon. But the problem we're going to have with that is when we start talking about the year and feast days, we're just only relying on the moon. I'm talking about the luminaries, needing them together, right? These are two witnesses, okay? How the Most High put this in place, right? So Psalms chapter 81. This is a verse that kind of gets some people tripped up as well. Psalms 81:3. Psalms chapter 81, verse 3. This one gets people tricked up, just like when it says, decreasing in her perfection. In Ecclesiasticus, some believe the new moon to be the sign of a new moon is a full moon. How? When the moon sometimes the full for 4 nights straight, 4 evenings straight, it could look full. You don't know where to start from there. But I believe the new moon to be the first sliver of light that comes upon it, that shines. And then the sign of a feast is the full moon. Usually the sign of a feast is the full moon, according to when the Most High said in which month to honor a certain feast, right? Within the first month of the year, a biblical year, Passover, you'll have a full moon for the 14th and the 15th. It will look full, right? And even going back to the calendar I was showing you all earlier on the new moon, you're going to see the moon is going to look half when it's waxing. It's going to look full, maybe 3 nights. So that's why the tracking and counting gotta be on point, you know, doing your best to identify the first sliver of lighting. And there's a lot of helpful ways to do that, which I can share in another video sometime. But that's why you see that sign and then you count. Oh, that's the sign. Tomorrow's new moon day. Count, you know, it's your 6 work days. Then the 7th is a Shabbat, which is the first one of that month, will be the 8th day of the month, right? It's the first Shabbat. It's the 7th day rest day, but it's the 8th day of the month, okay? I probably should have clarified that more in previous videos, but I hope that helps out. Either way, Psalms chapter 81 verse 3 says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day. Blow the trumpet. So you see that new moon, you're supposed to be blowing the shofar, right? A ram's horn, some versions say. You blow that shofar. Some versions may say at the full moon. Even on that context, I see it as blow the shofar when you see the new moon, and blow it on the feast day, which is when it will be full. All right, appointed times. The new moon is an appointed time. You could blow it as soon as you see it. You could blow it new moon day. Blow it when you praising and worshiping, right? So that's what the scripture tells us to do. So we do that, right? We walk that out, okay? But that's the main thing for feast days. Little added pieces of that to help you understand a little bit more on why the luminaries do matter, why the moon and the sun has to work together, which really coincides with the conclusion of this, of understanding even the new year, why the sun and the moon play a part in this as well. And I'll try to break that down a little more. But, you know, the sun helps govern the day, the moon helps govern the night, and also helps alongside identifying the feast, sign for the feast. Some say I'm only Saturday, then they use the moon to identify feast days, but you can be really off if you aren't understanding the luminaries and also the importance of the sun when gathering understanding on the feast days too. So, and that also goes alongside even the new year, okay?